quorum.
You say we do have a quorum, correct?
Yep.
Yep, okay. Okay, item number A on the agenda, of course, is the information on the Zoom meeting, which most of us know because most of us are attending it via Zoom. Item number B is roll call. Stephanie's got that under control. We know who's here and who's not, and I presume Susan's going to be joining us a little bit later. Item C, approval of tonight's agenda. We have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Okay, having a motion in a second, all those in favor say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? Anyone opposed? Are there any opposed? Seeing no one's opposed, today's agenda is good. Approval of the minutes of last month's meeting from June 21st. Did everybody take a look at those? Anyone want to make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, thank you, David. We have a second? I'll second it. All those in favor, keep by saying aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Do we have any nays? Anyone opposed? The approval of the minutes from last month's meeting carry, so they are approved. Regular business, item number 1, election of officers. Stephanie, I'll turn this over to you.
Yes, so it's about time. We do this every year. If you guys want to do your election, you can do it today. Since we are missing about half of our commission right now, if you wanted to postpone, that is okay too. Currently, Ron is your chair and Paul is your vice chair. So I will let you guys ponder on that. If you want to delay, just motion to do so and we'll put it on for August. If not, we can start voting now. So just let me know what you'd like to move forward with.
Stephanie, I guess I've got a question. Is there a matrix of who is on the commission when they joined and when they term off?
Yes, I have that. I can email that out to everyone.
I think that would be useful in terms of identifying if we stay static or we change or what that might look like.
Sure, I can email that out to everyone for next meeting.
Okay.
I would also like to throw out there too, you know, if there's anyone, I mean, I'm not opposed if that is the case to being chair again. However, if there's somebody who really wants to do it and who's been sitting in the wings for the last year or 2 or 3, feel free to come forward. And with that, I guess I'd like to make a motion to postpone to August.
I would second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to postpone till August. All those in favor, repeat by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? All right, we have decided to push the election of officers until August. Item number E2, excuse me. Certificate of Appropriateness 23-36, consideration of possible action on a design review for side porch work located at 621 South Monroe. Jason.
Good afternoon. 621 South Monroe is prominently located at the north end of South Monroe. Here you see not only the map, but a photograph that I took in 2019, which for my sake appears on the next slide as well.
Yeah.
So, 2019 photograph, if I direct your attention to the left side of that 2019 photograph, you will see in the background an enclosed porch adjacent to the driveway. That enclosed porch was built probably in the 1950s, according to the current homeowner, and seems to make sense based on what I recall. It's been removed, as noticeable in the photograph on the left, a much more recent photograph. This COA calls for the approval of that removal, the approval of the stairs that have been built in its place, and also the approval of a future reworking of the driveway. And before we get there, please take note of the slope of the driveway in the photograph on the left side of this slide. You'll see it's fairly steep up to the house and then levels off. The future proposed driveway, you'll see in the bottom left diagram, changes the slope of that driveway to be more gradual over a greater depth into the property. So circling back a little bit, at the top left here, you see a sketch of the current driveway in yellow, current paved areas, with orange areas showing future paved portions if approved. So those changes include a widening of the driveway between South Monroe and the house, and the removal of a, I'll call it a parking pad portion of that paved area. And instead of that parking pad portion, the addition of a paved patio portion in orange. Not that one, but that one. And the widening of that. And then, of course, you may recall from the photograph, there's a sloped retaining wall in way of the driveway. If approved, the retaining wall slope would change, and that's what we see at the right-hand side of the slide here. So instead of a sloped portion on the southern retaining wall, it becomes a vertical retaining wall. And on the north end of the retaining wall stuff, it's going to remain sloped. So that's what you see in the front view stuff of the big rectangle on the right-hand side of the screen there. So I offer you some recommendations. First of all, I recommend approval of the removal of the porch, construction of the stoop, and the contingency that that wood stuff that's been constructed needs to be painted. Then separately, I recommend approval of the proposed driveway work. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Does anyone, is there anyone here representing that that particular property?
I don't think so.
Okay. Having said that, does anybody want to make a motion or discuss it from the floor?
I've got a question, Jason. The new stair that's there currently that replaced the one that was taken down, was it taken down without a COA? Or was it prior to landmarks, or how did that happen? And second question is, with the change in slope of the driveway, does what we're approving need to be reworked again in order to have the step meet grade when it's at a lower slope?
So first aspect of what you've asked me, this COA or this particular property done came to me as work without a COA. I don't know who identified it.
One of our inspection officials did, and that's how it got to us.
Okay.
There's that backstory. The second aspect, you're asking about the slope of the driveway and if that needs to be revisited. Stephanie, I guess I'd have to ask you to go back to the slide that shows the little hand sketches. Because frankly, I don't know the answer.
So if you go to slide 6.
It's certainly possible that there will be some grade issues here. I don't have enough information to prognosticate what that final slope may look like. All I have are the hand sketches on slide 7 that, you know, shows the slope extending further back on the property beyond these steps. I don't know how they intend to treat the steps and their relationship to that new slope.
Ian, I didn't quite follow that question of yours about the slope. Could you reiterate and perhaps elaborate?
Yep. So the image you see on the right is the existing current condition. And the image on the left shows from Monroe to the back of the property, and somewhere along there is this staircase, as I understand it. Mm-hmm. If they're going to make the slope more gradual by putting the end of the uphill further into the property, then the posts and the sonotubes that it's sitting on will now get exposed, or that stair needs to be reworked in order to meet the new grade. So we're approving something only for it to be yet changed again when they do the driveway work.
I think we're approving the conceptual request to increase the slope length of the driveway. There may be some fine detail work. My hunch, I can't, say with certainty, but my hunch is that the stairs will remain as you see them here, and that there may be some additional step or curbing down into the driveway from this point.
Okay.
I do see your point, Ian, yeah. But I mean, I'm not seeing how it's got to impact on the historic nature of the building, given that those stairs are modern. Is that fair enough?
Sure.
And I guess, Jason, I would ask you, the stairs on the right, the treated lumber, it looks like treated lumber, and that is currently in place right now?
It is in place. The property owner would like to give it a year's worth of time to
Sure.
be exposed to the elements so as to better take primer and paint.
Okay, I just didn't notice it on my drive-by, that's all. That's the only reason I asked. Okay,
So in the photograph on the left, the location of these stairs, I think, had yet to be constructed, but they're behind that polygonal two-story bay section. So they're slightly sheltered from many aspects of public view, but not all aspects.
okay. Anyone else? Hi, Susan. Anyone else have anything to add or a motion or anything?
Given the lack of any historic impact, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second. All those in favor of the approval, respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed? Seeing that no one is opposed, the motion carries to allow it. Those, yeah, okay. Where are we here? Okay, we'll move on to the next one here. COA 23-37. Consideration of possible action on a design review for repair work on the garage roof, housing siding, and porch decking located at 809 South Jackson Street. Jason.
809 South Jackson Street does look familiar to all of you because it was recently before this commission for a COA on the stair railings, which are not accurately portrayed in that 2019 photograph at right. Nonetheless, I have these slides broken up by each of the items in the COA application. Item number 1 is repair to the drooping garage roof and to replace the asphalt shingles on that drooping garage roof. Okay, I'll talk about recommendations when we get to that, but that's item number 1. Item number 2 is to repair the cedar shakes on the front of the house. So here's a recent photograph that shows the changes to the stair railings that we discussed earlier. And although perhaps a bit pixelated in this photograph, there are indeed some deteriorated sections of the shake or shingles on the front facade of the house. Many of those likely require replacement. The proposed replacements are wood, cedar, shingles. They appear to be appropriate to me for replacement here. Item number 3 in the COA application is to repaint the house. Okay, moving on. Item number 4. Apparently, unbeknownst to me, there's a second-story deck on the rear of the house that isn't uncommon. They propose replacing it. Great. I can't see it. That's fine. Moving on. Item number 5, there's a request to tuck point the foundation. That's ordinary maintenance. Item number 6, there's reportedly a soft spot on the porch floor for which no further information has been submitted, but the COA calls for repairing that spot. So on the recommendation side of things, if you recall the garage, item number 1, I would recommend approval of repairing the garage roof and replacing the asphalt shingles. The proposed asphalt shingles to replace the old ones, they look fine. Item number 2, it's repairing cedar shakes on the front of the house. I recommend approval of that, provided that they're not tearing off all of the facade material and replacing with new. Item number 3, I recommend no action. Repainting the house is ordinary maintenance and not within the Landmarks Commission scope or jurisdiction. Item number 4, I recommend approval of replacing the second-story deck on the rear of the house, noting that it's not visible from any public right-of-way and will have no impact on the historic materials of the house. Item 5, I recommend no action here, again, because tuck pointing is ordinary maintenance. Although here it may be nice to remind the property owner that there are different types of mortar hardness, and the appropriate mortar hardness would be good to use here on their foundation. And item 6, similarly, I recommend no action as repairs to the porch floor, if indeed repair. That would be an ordinary maintenance item and not subject to landmarks approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone here today representing that property?
Yeah, the contractor's here if you have any questions.
Then I guess I'd make a motion to open the floor to ask a question. Will anybody second it?
Second.
A motion to open the floor to second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? Okay, no opposition. The floor is open. My question to the contractor is that in a previous meeting, we did discuss those porch railings, and it was moved the time that those railings on the front porch be capped, and they have not been. And I'm just kind of curious if you're going to throw that into the mix with the other repairs and cap those railings like we had requested.
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. And your name is, sir?
James.
I'm sorry. State your name for the record. So we.
James Raven.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
I have no further questions. I guess I'll motion to close the floor.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor, repeat by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed? No opposition. The floor is closed. And would anyone like to make a motion on this?
Motion to approve.
Second that.
Was that Ian, a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor, repeat by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Any oppositions? Is anyone opposed? The motion to approve, make this recommendation carries. Okay, item number 4, COA 23-38, consideration with possible action on a design review for a new deck located at 625 South Jefferson. Jason.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
So many pictures. So I want to preface this by saying, in all fairness, I probably should have done this on the staff level, but it came to me as an item that would be visible from a public right of way, and then it picked up some momentum in my mind like that, and here I am. On the right, you see a photo of the house. On the left, a map where it's at. You see that this particular house is effectively sitting on a double lot, with the lot to the south being empty, which provides beautiful views and aspects of portions of the rear of the property. The proposal, both of these photographs here, they're the same photo. The one on the left, I just kind of highlighted in yellow what I believe to be the proposal, which is to add this deck some distance from the rear of the house. And it's got a flooring height about 2 feet above the ground. And a few more details on the following slide for your information. You see a conceptual view of that deck, some dimensions, typical 20th century railing and baluster attachments with the face nailing. Okay, fine. Jumping to the end of the story, staff recommends approval.
All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve this.
I'll second that.
Okay. Having a motion in a second, all those in favor, by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there any oppositions? Does anyone oppose? Is there any opposition? Having no opposition, the motion carries. By the way, on my drive, let's throw in there real quick on my drive-by. It looks like that's already completed back there. Item number 5, COA 23-39, consideration with possible action on a design review for chimney removal located at 622 South Madison Street. Jason.
So, yes, second verse, same as before. It's picture of the house on the right. That's an older, or no, yes, that's an older picture. Sorry, 2019. Next slide has an even older picture, but this one shows the chimney that we're discussing. And so this is one where, as a personal note, not professional note, it leaves me somewhat torn, because the Secretary of the Interior standards and SHPO have been very clear in stating that, of course, this chimney should remain here and be repaired or reconstructed appropriately. The reality, of course, is that the house maintains a modest degree of integrity. We have some general integrity of the form and design, but virtually no integrity of materials. And so, you know, all things considered, it's at the lower end of the spectrum of contributing properties, but it is a contributing property. So the COA application calls for the removal of that chimney altogether, roofing over that spot, as well as a couple of other small maintenance type items. I think wrapping a window trim, which I really wouldn't know which window. I think it's the first story facing the driveway. I suspect it's already been wrapped. Nothing's going to be lost by wrapping the window trim there. But professionally speaking, Secretary of the Interior standards are very clear in saying that that chimney is a character defining feature of the property. The house has had a brick chimney and that's part of its historic integrity. So next slide, based solely on that, the house should, per the Secretary of the Interior standards, continue to have a brick chimney in that spot in the future. And because of that, the staff recommendation has to be to deny removing and roofing over the chimney. You may wish to discuss the reality of things. If you do so, I would caution you thinking that, you know, I strongly recommend that you're uniform in your application of rules and standards. And if you start to discuss gray areas, which is where I personally want to go, but can't professionally recommend you go, then you need to be able to define those boundaries pretty concisely. So, thank you.
And we do have the applicant here.
Do we have a motion to open the floor for the applicant?
So moved.
Second.
Oh. Okay, all those in favor to open, say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, let's open the floor and let's let the property owner talk here. And who is this person?
Dean Kavanaugh, 625 Jefferson. I do apologize to you. I only bought this house a year ago. And I was told by the people that live around me, there's only like 4 houses that live near me on that street because my front door goes to the back of the water department. And when I told them about putting a deck in the back, they said, oh yeah, it's not attached to the house. You don't have to worry about it. You have its green space, you know, but just go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and did it, but then I had another neighbor said, wait a minute, you can't do that because you're in a historical area, which I wasn't aware of that.
Do you own
That street was on that, pardon me?
Do you own both of these homes? I thought you were here for the chimney application.
No.
Oh.
I was just apologizing because I went and put the deck in and then came and looked for a permit. And the reason I came is because on my own accord, I said, oh, wait a minute, I gotta go get a permit. And that's when I found out about this. That's why I applied to everything. But now
you're with the South Jefferson property.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
I apologize for that. And in the future, now I know what the rules are and how to go about them. So if I do anything, I was under the impression only on the outside of the house that I change would have to be approved by you guys. And the inside and the outside on the grass and all that, as long as I kept a certain amount of green space, nobody cared. Which, like I said, now I'm realizing that's not the truth at all. So,
Sir, I didn't catch your name. My name's David Siegel. I'm one of the commissioners, and I'll just share with you that your situation is something we've encountered before. It's entirely understandable that you weren't aware, and your neighbors perhaps gave conflicting, and it sounds like perhaps inaccurate. But this is no big deal. I appreciate you coming here and apologizing. I don't really think it's necessary, but I am very pleased to hear that you're acknowledging this and you recognize in the future being able to work within the system. But this is unfortunately a common situation, and it is understandable.
But just so you know, the house that I bought was a drug house, and there were when I bought this house, it was. I'm too old to do this house. It's taken me a long time just to get this place to where I could live in it. an event. It was originally supposed to be a two flat or two, you know, a apartment above and an apartment downstairs. I was
Upper
gonna,
and lower.
my brother was gonna live upstairs. And then he ended up getting sick and lost his leg. Now he can't get up and down the stairs.
Oh.
He's not living there anymore. He went back to his old house he was gonna sell. And now that, so we're separated and the upstairs isn't being used for anything at all. It's just empty. And I don't plan on using it for anything, maybe in the future, maybe not, I don't know. But on the, with the homeless people coming and living in my backyard on a regular basis, I have to chase them out all the time. It's a very tough little neighborhood to be in. And I don't know.
Sir, we do need to move on the rest of our
I
business.
apologize. I carrying on, but thank you for listening to me.
And thank you for coming forward and being honest. We really appreciate that. So the floor is still open for the owner of 622 South Madison if they're in attendance. Are they in attendance today?
There's
No.
no one else in this room, so unless the person on the phone is them.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Stephanie, I didn't catch what you said.
There's nobody else in the room with us, so unless the person on the phone is them, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Well, I would like to open up the discussion. Jason, you frankly have changed my mind. Initially, I thought, given the low historic integrity of it, I was going to give it a pass, but you've changed my mind. You're spot on right. Where do we draw the line? And if the Secretary of the Interior says you must repair or replace and removal is unacceptable, you're right, because that's an interpretation to grant this, whereas the Secretary of the Interior, that's more of an absolute. So you have convinced me to deny this COA.
I'm sorry, that was maybe the opposite of what I was hoping for. Yeah. I don't know how to give a pass to something and not to something else. I don't know how to thread that needle here.
It's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope, and I guess, you know, like you said, without getting into too much detail, on my drive-by, I just wondered what's supporting it underneath the roof. But, you know, that's something we don't get involved on the interior of the home. So, again, the Secretary of the Interior standards is what we base our stuff on. So,
we do have a little more background on this. This initially came through Stephanie's office as an application for our historic preservation revolving loan fund. And as part of that, the homeowner sent some information off to SHPO saying, hey, we'd like to get the tax credits then too. And SHPO effectively came back and said, hey, you can't remove the chimney. The tax credit certainly won't, approve of that because lo and behold, it runs counter to the Secretary of the Interior standards and guidelines for rehabilitation of buildings. And at that point, the homeowner said, well, hey, let's just forget about the loan stuff. I'll just, do the chimney myself. And that's when I said, oh, hey, you still need the COA, of course. And then we find ourselves in the kind of the heart-hurting situation of looking at that chimney and saying, well, the Secretary of the Interior says you ought to have a chimney there. But anyway, the chimney currently is leaking. I suspect some of you have experience with leaking chimneys. I know I have had that experience too. And it needs some sort of work. The proposed solution was to remove it and roof over it. There are other solutions which may be more expensive, but nonetheless.
Also, the floor is still open. If someone could close that for me, please.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
all those in favor to close the floor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to that? No. Motion carries. Floor is closed. Does anyone have a motion regarding the chimney?
I guess I got a little discussion on it. I mean, if the applicant keeps the chimney and repoints it or rebuilds it, whatever's necessary, then they can take the historic tax credit. So 25% of the cost of that repair will be covered by a direct tax credit. So if there is an increase in cost, it should be offset by the tax credit, right? At least some of it. So
the applicant has said that they are unwilling or unable to reach the minimum $10,000 expenditure. And even with our loan, Apparently, the homeowner has lost an appetite for pursuing that altogether. I don't know why, but okay, that's what we have.
I mean, I think it's 10,000 over 5 years, right? So. I'm guessing most people are gonna hit that threshold within 5 years, but maybe not.
Say placing windows or do something like that. But to the chimney repair, I think we don't know if they got a roofer over there to get a bid on flashing and roofing tar.
I mean, my 2 cents is to agree with David that where do you stop and start? I mean, if the chimney is, 18 feet high and decorative, and certainly a part of the character of a building, do we now say that, yeah, you can take it down? I mean, where does that stop and start? So I'm in agreement with David. My inclination is to keep it and do it properly.
I agree.
So is that a motion and a second that we just had?
It wasn't a motion, but
Okay.
I thought David might be.
Oh, yeah. I was
set to
kind
make
of
a
thinking that
motion,
too.
so.
Yeah. David, do you have something you want to add?
Oh, this one I'll pass to Ian. He just seems more enthusiastic.
He's got the words together.
I'm sorry.
Who was that?
Oh, that was just background noise.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
So I'd make a motion to deny the removal of the chimney.
And what about the
second.
window? What about the window
Oh.
flashing?
I think Jason indicated the window may already have been flashed in the past, so I think that's a-okay.
Okay. And do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor of denial, say aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed to denying it?
Nay.
Is that you, Alder?
Yep.
Okay. You deny, okay. Do you want to elaborate on that or no? It's not just
Nope.
one denial, okay. Well, with 5 in favor and 1 opposed, I guess the motion carries to deny it. I mean, yes, to deny the chimney removal. Thank you. Where am I here? Item number 6, consider COA 23-40, consideration of possible action on a design review for a porch work located at 1137 South Monroe Avenue. Jason.
7 South Monroe Avenue should look familiar. We had some follow-up information received from the property owner about other changes to the property. Last time around, we discussed windows, the 3 that you see here in this photograph, and a pergola that's now no longer part of the plan. But we still need approval on what the front entryway will be, as well as closing the loop, so to speak, on some outstanding issues. So here we have some drawings of the proposed front entryway. They include that low wall that's not attached to the house and is effectively a landscaping feature, which we arguably don't really have any jurisdiction over. Fine. I don't have a lot of details on the stair units themselves. I understand they're supposed to have that composite flooring that you see here. The metal railings are either identical or very much similar to what was here previously. As an aside, I have to point out that the property owner has taken some issue with the windows, and now this drawing shows only 2 windows where there should indeed be 3. But anyway, that's a separate issue. Moving on, here's a detail of that drawing. So it shows metal handrails, it shows some sort of stairs, which are more or less like what used to be here. And then a little bit of stucco embellishment on the sides of those stairs, all of which I think is fine. Just cutting to the end of that story. Apparently, there's a back deck that's been added. It's entirely hidden from any view from public right of way. Got nothing bad to say about that. In addition to the window changes on the front of the house, there were supposedly 3 windows on the back of the house that have been swapped out. What I've given you here is the manufacturer cut sheet on all windows, which was same thing I provided at the last meeting on this house. Homeowners provided 1 photograph of a window opening on the back of the house. I have no other details than that. I don't know what the back of the house looked like. I don't know what it currently looks like. None of which is visible from a public right of way. So really, I can't get too wrapped up in it. But these are items that we should close out. So staff recommendation, I'm recommending approval of the rear deck, noting that it's not visible from public right of way. Noting that there was likely no historic stuff lost or gained. Recommending approval of the front entry stairs and stoop because it appears to be a good substitution for the non-historic material that was here previously. I'm recommending approval of the back deck. I said that. Then I have a little, I don't know what I was talking about here, but it's about the windows on the back because I can't really tell you what was there. Can't really tell you what's there now. Okay. I'm not too upset about that though either because I can't see any of it. I think that concludes everything I've got on this one. Thank you.
Anyone care to comment?
I would suggest, Ron, that maybe we take those 2 items up separately. Just dispense with the first one. It seems pretty non-controversial.
Which is, that's the rear deck that is not
Correct.
visible. Okay. Okay.
I would make a motion that we approve staff's recommendation on the rear deck.
I'll second that.
Okay. Having I'm sorry. Oh, I thought I heard somebody talking. Having a motion to second, all those in favor of that first recommendation, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to that? No. Is there anyone opposed? One last time. Is anyone opposed? Okay, that first rear deck carries is approved. Randy, what would you like to say? Do you want to add to the second part? I mean, excuse me, Alder Johnson. I'm sorry, Randy. I'm thinking here.
Well, I guess I'm not seeing any clear recommendation from staff at this point. I think I was in the minority last time that voted against directing that change. So as you can imagine, I'd probably be in the same position this time. I don't know that I would add any more to that, but from my perspective, I'm perfectly content leaving it as is. But I know there are other members of the commission that felt alternatively. So might be better maybe to ask for their perspective.
I want to be clear that this application has nothing to do with the front 3 windows. That has already been decided upon. We are in action to get them restored. So this is only front porch, rear windows, not front windows.
Oh, I apologize. I misunderstood that.
Okay. I think we were just reading because the concepts that were submitted were showing just the 2. So we want to be clear in our recommendation. Okay, all 3 windows, even though you submitted it with 2 windows, but that is not an item for today.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
Yes.
And nor is item number 3, correct? I mean, it says that we can't even offer a recommendation, so we're not really voting on approval or disapproval, are we?
No, Jason didn't offer a recommendation because we felt it didn't have enough information for him to offer a recommendation, but you all still are having the right to vote on the rear deck, front porch, rear windows.
Did I just vote on the rear deck?
Yep, rear deck is done.
So the outstanding recommendations for me is approval of the front stairs, and I have silence on the rear windows, but personally go for it, right?
I mean, well, I didn't see anything about the front steps. I mean, as far as recommendations.
Yeah, it's
in there. We just went over it. I'll pull it up again.
So we have not voted on that part.
First part talks about rear deck. Second sentence of that, recommend approval of front entry stairs and.
Okay, that's right. Okay, and we voted to approve that first recommendation.
I'd make a motion to approve the steps as well.
I'll second that. Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
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 And is there anyone opposed to that? Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed? Okay, the motion to approve the stairs carries as well. And then we really don't have anything else here to vote on, do we?
Rear windows.
Oh, the rear windows.
Mhm.
Given the
anybody-
lack of information and the fact it's out of the right of way, and when I say information, what's there, what was there, I'm going to make a motion to approve what's there.
I'll second that.
Having a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to the rear windows? Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed to the rear windows? Having no opposition, the motion to approve the rear windows carries as well.
Well, I feel bad for separating those now. I thought it was the previously approved window, so I thought it was going to be a little more discussion on that.
Oh, well, that's okay. Item number 7, consideration with possible action on a design review for replacement front porch columns located at 711 Eliza Street.
They had recommended this be withdrawn. This was going to be an alternative option for replacement columns if they could not restore the ones that are there. They emailed yesterday saying they could restore them, so they do no longer need this COA.
Motion to
Okay.
receive and place on file.
I didn't understand that, but is that, am I getting background noise?
I heard something too. I don't know what
Okay.
that.
But nobody spoke up. Okay.
Alder Johnson did made a motion to receive and place it on file.
Oh, okay. Do
Second.
we need to? Okay. We have, is that a motion and a second? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed to receiving it on file or placing it on file? Is anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? See no opposition, that motion carries as well. So moving ahead to item number 8, public hearing on the nomination of 414 North Maple Street to Green Bay's local register of historic places. I presume Jason?
Me actually for
Ah,
this. So
okay.
this is new for our commission. In our ordinance, it states that we are able to do local nominations to our local register. We haven't had any yet to date, so this is our first one. So kind of just want to walk through the process. We're required to host a public hearing for that item. That is that people are able to come make comments. It's not really a place for an exchange of thoughts. It's more just to give information or to state their opinion on the nomination to the local register. So that's what the first action item will be, is that, you know, I'm letting you all know that this was properly posted. We did that in the Press Gazette and the Press Times for this one. So that was posted there. So people were informed that a public hearing would take place on this matter, and neighbors within 100 feet were notified as well of this meeting. So for this portion of it, we're just going to basically open the floor for comments if anyone wants to come forward to make a comment on it. And then it'll be in the next item that's available that will actually be voting on recommending the nomination for that. So Jason will start with the staff presentation to make sure everyone has the same background information. And then after that presentation, we'll open the floor for any public comments during the public hearing, close the floor, move on to the next item. So there's no action in the public hearing, move on to the next item, and that's when we actually make the recommendation. So a little bit different than what we're used to, but so.
And Stephanie, you just go right ahead and you take care of that, okay?
Yes, I will guide you along, no worries. So we'll just start the presentation.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a tough act to follow, folks. Here you see 711 Eliza. Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
Getting there.
So I think officially it's been referred to as 412-414 North Maple. It's a 4-unit, I think. And ever since I started working in the city of Green Bay, this particular building has always been a topic of conversation and local interest. As I understand it, and as it's been proven to me, this is one of the original Fort Howard Fort buildings. And it's, you know, historically been referred to as either a surgeon's quarters or officer's quarters. And if you really find the right person, you can get into a pretty solid academic debate about that yet today. So that's fun. Top 2 photographs of this called a house at the current location. Those top two photographs are sometime before the 1930s. And then the bottom two photographs are like 1932 to 1940. And what happened is this house was built sometime around 1830. So it's one of Green Bay's oldest things. It's likely the only fort building that remains in the city of Green Bay. Other buildings with proven Fort Howard provenance have all been moved to the Heritage Hill old building sanctuary area. This one has not. This one likely never will. The Heritage Hill folks have said they don't want it. Fine. But ever since about 1870 or 1868, it was dragged to its current location from the former Fort Howard military site and converted into a residential unit. And for most of its history, it's been a multi-unit, residential building, or apartment to apartment, whatever it is. Great. The big we, when we did the intensive level survey for this portion of the city, this building was identified as potentially eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, and the State Historic Preservation Officer, Dinah Pencunis, came, did a little site visit, and did the mark of the whatever it is for blessing this building as indeed eligible for the National Register. The special note here is that it's eligible for the National Register under criterion D, as in dog. Most of the time, buildings from the historic period that we deal with are either eligible under criterion A, that's associated with some event, or B, some historic person, or C, the architecture or architect. So it's usually under A and C that I spend most of my time looking at buildings. This one under criterion D, which is for buildings or sites that are valuable for their potential to reveal information. So criterion D is typically the archaeological or shipwreck go-to, or some ruin of prehistory go-to. And it's a very rare bird indeed when it's a historical building in the historic era, say 1830-ish, that comes in under criterion D. And a lot of that is based on some stuff I'll show you in the next two slides. So potential to yield information, we have the method of construction here, which if you're into old buildings and construction, you can really nerd out on this here. These are photographs taken from the basement, looking up at the floor boards of the primary floor. And for the floor joists, the vertical stiffeners, if you will, for my shipyard parlance here, you can see near the measuring tape in the top left photograph, the edge of that board running up and down, you see it's kind of wavy. I mean, it's old. This is predating a sawmill. And then the floorboards themselves, which you see in the other two photographs with some details, you should note that at the center of the spans, you see it's kind of grayish and oxidized. And where the floorboards hit those joists, they've been hand planed down to a tolerance so that the floor would be flat. And similarly, where the boards meet each other, they've been hand planed down for tolerance. So each of these boards was hand sawn, either in a pit or suspended up high, and then hand planed to meet the tolerances necessary. And what you see are the evidence of that hand planing on the boards. Moving to the next slide. Again, another basement photo at the top left. You see some really massive timbers that were presumably felled locally and hand-hewn job. Want to draw your attention to the interior millwork. The doors, you don't have a good sense of scale here, but the doors are unusually large. And that matches other known fort buildings because the doors had to serve the purpose of a fully kitted out soldier walking through the doorways and potentially carrying other wounded soldiers through the doorways. So they had to be big. Bottom left, the doors, which are very much still present inside the house, they bear the ghost paint outlines of the heavy iron hardware that used to be on the doors for the latches and the like. It's a bit of a, time machine that so much of the interior stuff remains, including the original stairwell, big wide stairs to accommodate soldiers running up and down the stairs. And it's because of these details that the house is eligible under criterion D. It shows how a fort building was constructed around 1830. And, that's not to say it's unique, because many of the buildings, contemporary pier buildings, have been moved to Heritage Hill. But this one is unique because it's still here in the city of Green Bay, and it speaks directly to the fort of Fort Howard. Here, the eye chart, this is taken directly from our intensive level survey report. It gives a little bit of the history of the building. At the top right, it says significant under criterion D. It says it's been constructed presumably in 1831. Wow, and I squint, I can kind of read it. Greek Revival, eligible for National Register. Also on the cover of the report, it got the cover model photograph on the cover of the report, so that's kind of cool. But that, in a nutshell, is the history of this building. And I know that it's been discussed at council a time or two about, different ideas of, hey, the city should buy it. Hey, somebody should turn it into a museum. Hey, somebody's got a better idea for it, whatever. Nonetheless, it's never been locally designated. It's not currently on the National Register of Historic Places. But as historic buildings in Green Bay go, this one probably has more visibility in the public eye than most others. I don't know if it should, but nonetheless, people turn out to talk about this one, it seems. So that's what I've got to tell you. Thank you.
So now would be the appropriate time to call for anyone to give public comment. There is literally nobody in this room or anyone on the call outside of the commissioners, but we still have to ask 3 times if anybody would like to speak. So if you could do that, Ron.
As you say, ask 3 times if anybody would like to speak.
Please.
Would anybody like to speak to this property? Is there anyone out there that would like to speak to this property? Anyone want to add anything about this property? Seeing that we have no one, will we move on to item number 9, right?
Thank you.
Is that correct? So we are now on item number 9. Well, let it be shown that nobody wanted to speak at the public hearing on item number 8. So item number 9, consideration with possible action on the nomination of 414 North Maple Street to Green Bay's local register of historic places.
We're recommending that it gets approved.
You recommend, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Stephanie.
We're recommending approval.
Okay.
You just need a motion.
Yep, and then it'll go on to city council for final approval.
I make a motion to approve.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve 414's nomination. All those in favor say aye.
Ron,
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple of questions for staff.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
First one is the property owner aware that this is happening?
Yes. So the owner got the same letter that we sent out to everyone within 100 feet, but then they've also been working with our inspection division on some outstanding issues, and they were notified that way as well.
Was there any objection?
Not from the existing owner. They're looking to sell. They're hoping to maintain some integrity with the property, but they'll be outgoing soon enough. So we wanted to catch it kind of in between owners, so that way we're not putting one out and not letting the other one know ahead of time. So we think this is a good time to do the nomination.
Okay, and if this nomination occurs, like what prohibitions might exist from, Jason alluded to it, right? In the past, it's been talked about at council, and I think more specifically, conversation has occurred is the merits of moving it back to the Fort Howard site. There was some land designated in the rail yard area for public use. I know that certainly that people fall on both sides of the fence on that discussion. My question more specifically is, if this is put on the National Historic Registry, does it prevent you from doing that in the future?
No, I don't think that a move, it would get reviewed by landmarks.
So there's a lot of nuance to that. There are 7 aspects of integrity. Setting is one of them, the setting of the building. If it's going back to where it once was, an argument can be made that setting is perhaps being improved, or restored to that building. I think from a nuts and bolts perspective, if the city ever looks to spend federal funds to do something with the National Register property, that will trigger a Section 106 review process. And at the end of that process, the federal funding agency may say, well, that's bad for the historic integrity, and you can't use our federal funds for it. Now, from the city's perspective, if the city were to own it, can the city move it? Yes, I'm gonna say yes, recognizing that, okay, maybe there's some more words that ought to be said at that discussion, but the end of that story is going to be yes.
Okay, and that's just the biggest thing. I mean, I do think this is obviously a very significant property, and all for supporting it. Just the nomination, just wanting to make sure that we're aware of any unintended consequences that might prohibit us from doing, other preservation things in the future, if that makes sense.
It does, and I want to mention too, within the last year, the little schoolhouse at which the Republican Party was created, I forget the name, here in Wisconsin, that community moved that building, not the first time it's been moved, but they moved it again. And that has triggered kind of that's a good word for shit, a storm revolving around its National Register listing. And I haven't seen the end of that story yet, but their municipality maybe jumped the gun, did something they shouldn't have, I don't know. Nonetheless, they moved it, and you can move these things. And we've had buildings on the National Register that were moved to Heritage Hill after they were on the National Register. So that particular concern can be addressed, and yeah, you can move it, but you shouldn't just wake up one day and say, hey, it's happening, and not expect a lot of public talking heads and talking heads with a lot of authority to want to talk about it some more, right? Just after all that talking's done, yeah, you can move it.
Okay, thank you.
So on the flip side of that, the building then would be eligible for historic tax credits for any maintenance that might be required on it.
So it's currently eligible because it's been identified as eligible for listing in the National Register. Now, under the Wisconsin homeowner tax credits, as long as it's been officially, sanctified as eligible, it can get those tax credits.
Interesting.
It exists in a very neat space right now where local authority doesn't exist over that, but it can still eat the carrot of tax credits through the state.
Just open it up for our revolving loan fund, giving a priority there, which would be great, because that's usually the stopgap, right? The 10 grand minimum spend, that this would fill that gap for the new owner.
Well, and then the question is it an income producing property and not a home? So then it, okay, still there's a tax credit through Wisconsin. It's not the 25%, it's a 20%. But then it's not a $10,000 minimum, it's the 5,000, or I forget exactly, it's a different little matrix there.
Anyone else? So so are we gonna motion to vote on this today? Are we?
I have a motion from Ian and a second from Rebecca right now, so approve.
Oh, okay. Well, having a motion and a second, I guess we could say all those in favor of the nomination, reply by saying aye.
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 Is there anyone opposed? Is anyone opposed? Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none, the motion is the motion to nominate 414 North Maple Street carries. Okay, informational staff level COA applications.
So I'm presuming you didn't talk about any of these at the last meeting. Which is great because I've got them all here. 1043 South Van Buren, it's on a corner. They want to put in a paved patio. You know, it's not a driveway, so it's effectively landscaping. And so I asked myself if these were like flagstones, would I have any jurisdiction? No, it's going to be concrete, but it's still just an entertainment area. So I approved it. I'm not even sure that I had to, but I did. So 241 North Broadway, it's kind of tucked in the elbow of the Platten building. Maybe it's part of the Platten building. I'm not sure. We approved it. The old theater. Is this the Vix Theater? Confetti's, Oxygen.
Both, all three.
Everything you want it to be. They're getting a new roof as we speak. Approved it. Parking lot resurface around the old Frankenthal Katie Land building. We approved that too. Here, they wanted to replace a fence with a fence. And by the way, their neighbor Art Olson said he's cool with it too. So we approved it. Oh, I guess that was all we did. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Staff update.
We signed a contract with Legacy to do the phase 7 of the intensive level survey.
Yeah, that'll be our last phase for now, because we've run out of old houses.
Well,
The surveys, right?
and again, there, just to elaborate, SHPO currently does not have the appetite to spend money on the peripheral areas of the city of Green Bay, feeling that the bang for the buck is too low, given that those more suburban areas are relatively new. That means we'll miss out on, you know, the stray farmhouse that's in the middle of a suburban neighborhood. We'll miss out on the UWGB campus. We'll miss out on anything Oneida reservation related that maybe we wouldn't have jurisdiction over anyway because it's reservation related.
But we can always in the future apply for those phases to be done once SHPO wants us to, basically. So
yeah.
But yeah, so phase 7, we are signing a contract right now to finish that one out. And then Jason today sent out a request for bids for the start of our preservation planning work.
The design guidelines, the district specific design guidelines that are mentioned in our ordinance that council called into question on the North Broadway property for the windows because we didn't have them. So
we're getting them.
Well, maybe we are. I got one response back saying they don't do that. But that's okay. I sent it to 6 or 8 different groups. So hopefully we'll see something.
I think that's it.
Okay, anybody else have anything to add? Item number 3, the date of our next meeting is Wednesday, August 16th. So until then, or until something else comes up in the meantime, thank you all for attending. Thank you very much.
Move to adjourn.
Second that.
Oh yeah, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Is there anybody opposed? No, ayes take it. We're adjourned. Thank you.